coast to coast,
coast to shore,
shore to shore,
shore to shore.
It's a Lakey Unleashed.
Unleashed, unleashed.
We talk truth,
Information,
infotainment.
infotainment.
He says what
You've been thinking,
but you've been scared to say. We love to listen.
we love to listen, Jimmy, yeah.
We do.
We love to listen to Jimmy.
Tell it.
Tell it,
Tell it.
coast to coast,
Yeah.
coast to shore.
It's Lakey Unleashed and
Lakey unleashed and unfiltered.
Unfaith.
Faith meets fire,
Turn it up.
a little higher.
The Jimmy Lakey.
Daily show is on now.
Lakey Unleashed.
Daily unleashed, daily show on.
Preacher. You ready for it?
Yeah,
You ready for faith?
yeah.
You ready for fire? You ready for politics with some Holy Ghost power?
Faith meets fire.
Ooh.
Faith meets fire.
From your kitchen table to that big old 18-wheeler.
Big old 18-wheeler.
From the city to the country, Jimmy Lake is speaking what you feeling.
Lakey unleashed.
Say it.
Lakey unleashed.
Hey. Don't touch that dial.
Lakey unleashed.
Don't you go nowhere.
Lakey unleashed.
The Lakey Unleashed.
Lakey unleashed.
Daily show, Jimmy Lakey is on right now. 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 Right now is music.
Right now. Right now is music. Right now. Right now is music.
Right now.
Here we go. Right now. Brother Leroy knocking it out of the park again. Appreciate him. I hope he doesn't send us the invoice for all these new jingles that he's done here. But good to have you here. How does he put all that together? I don't even know. By the way, he sent me one last night, a new jingle, an opening jingle. You don't want to miss it. Coming up, he has Sister Gloria in the Jimmy Lakey Mass Choir featured in one of our upcoming openings. So make sure you're always here early. Tune in right when the live stream goes, and we'll always try to entertain you with a little bit of music right before I screw it up by getting here to talk. Glad to have all of you out there, whatever platform you're on this morning. Pleasured, pleased, thrilled, and happy to be here. And again, that was Brother Leroy in the Jimmy Lakey Mass Choir, and you don't want to miss any of that. How's everybody doing? Everybody good? Everybody's good. Delilah's good. Aiden's good. Producer Chad, we just talked. He's good. I hope you're doing well this morning. Welcome to the Lakey Unleashed stream, pod, and broadcast. Always glad to have you here, and hope you stick with us for the next hour, and we will jump into some good conversation together. A lot of news stories out there we want to hit on today. I got a story about big pharmaceutical companies. Imagine that they have decided to, well, it wasn't them. It was the pediatrician group that controls them. That and funds them, I should say. And, your pediatrician gets bonuses for all those vaccines. If they have fully vaccinated clientele, they get a lot of money. And so a pharma-funded pediatrician group says, hey, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., forget all this stuff. We still need to get 72 jabs into kids. So they're making a big deal, talking about they don't like this smaller vaccine schedule. And I say those pediatricians should go pound of sand, in my opinion. Also, the Senate quietly, remember last week and the week before, you were supposed to have your hair on fire, and you were supposed to be horrified about how we had taken out Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela. And they were all saying free Maduro. Evidently, the libtards out there, the left, has forgotten about Nicolas Maduro. He's rotting in jail right now. Remember, all the people were all activated about Nicolas Maduro, and then they all said, no, we can't be outraged about that. We have to be outraged about this ICE shooting and the lady that died in Minneapolis. And so evidently Nicolas Maduro is no longer a big deal to the American left. They found another way that they can implode, another way that they can hate if they find another way to get all upset about this thing. They're just crazy. Again, Nicolas Maduro has been set aside by the American left so that they can now have their heads imploded about the Nicole Good tragedy that happened in Minneapolis, and also the No Kings protest. They set the No Kings aside so that they could stand up for the dictator Maduro. Now they've set Maduro aside so they can stand up and protest and riot in Minneapolis about Nicole Good. Well, quietly, while the left has turned their head and abandoned Nicolas Maduro, their favorite dictator out there, Democrats no longer upset about him. They're letting there. So the Senate has now dismissed the Venezuela War Powers Resolution with the help of J.D. Vance. Here's what you need to know about this. Vice President J.D. Vance helped Senate Republicans yesterday defeat a War Powers Resolution that would constrain President Trump's ability to pursue military actions in Venezuela. The vote reverses actions taken by the chamber earlier this month after 5 Republicans joined Democrats in backing the plan. Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine, Josh Hawley of Missouri, Rand Paul of Kentucky, and Todd Young of Indiana initially voted with the Democrats. So when the Democrats had their hair on fire about Maduro, the Democrats' favorite dictator out there, and their rioters in the streets say, "Free Maduro." Well, what happened to No Kings? No, we set that aside. We have another project that's going to cause us to go crazy. And so they did. So the Senate, too much, remember, Dog and Pony Show, voted that they wanted to limit the war power strength of President Donald Trump. And it wasn't going to go anywhere as a resolution because it wasn't getting through the House, but it was all symbolic. Well, they decided to revisit this. Now that the Democrats and the people that they're afraid of are no longer chanting in the streets to free Maduro, and they have let their favorite dictators begin to rot in jail all by himself. They're probably not even visiting him, probably haven't sent him a card. They've done nothing. They've just let old Nicholas rot in that New York jail. Well, they revisited the vote yesterday, and Josh Hawley and Todd Young, one of Missouri and one of Indiana, flipped their votes after they got some pushback from Donald John Trump. And that tied the vote at 50-50, and then Vance came in yesterday and broke the deadlock. So this War Powers resolution that passed last week in the Dog and Pony Show in the U.S. Senate, guess what? It's no longer available, and the left's not going crazy about it. You know why? Because the left knows that they only can pick one topic at a time. They only have like one flag at a time, but they can't hold two signs. They can't hold Free Maduro and tragedy in Minneapolis. It doesn't work that way. And so they have moved on, and that War Powers resolution is now dead. And President Trump keeps that executive power that all presidents have had to take action when necessary. So there's that news story out there. Maybe you missed it. I got a question for you. If you had a friend, remember the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? It was Regis Philbin that hosted that thing. Was he the only host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Sometimes they put Drew Carey in there, and if you run out of hosts, you just put Marco Rubio in there. I mean, Marco Rubio can do anything. But if you remember the old show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you always could get to make a phone call, and you could phone a friend. Remember the phone a friend thing? And I want to ask you the question. If you were an expert, if your friends wanted to call you from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, what would be your area of expertise? What is the category that you would be? I have a show that I record. I haven't watched this season. I did watch last season. It's on one of the networks, CBS, NBC. It's called The Floor. And The Floor is where all of these people stand there and they all declare an area of expertise. It could be Broadway plays, it could be computers, it could be all sorts of, you just name an area of expertise, and you go there and hope that someone challenges you and you know more about that area of expertise than someone else. So here's my question. Here's my question for you. If you were on a game show, what would be your area of expertise? I really want to know that. What would be your area of expertise? Now, this didn't just come out of spark out of my head. There's a personal lending company. You may have heard of a personal loan site called Lending Club, and they did a poll on this very thing. And they said, if you were on a game show, what would be your game show area of expertise? And this is our question of the day today. 2,000 different people went in a bunch of categories, and they rated different things that they're knowledgeable in on about a scale of 1 to 10. And guess what happened? I think you're going to be surprised at what people in America say that their area of expertise is. Cody already jumps in here and says TV theme songs. TV theme songs. That could be a nice one. What's yours? I was actually shocked at what the area of expertise that people say in America, that if they're on the game show and their friends had to call them on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the average area of expertise, the average American, number 10, people said money, saving money, finance, that kind of thing. They three, almost 4 out of 10. That got a 4 score on the 1 out of 10. Health and fitness. That's one that I'm a big one. I tell you all about health and fitness. Okay, maybe not. History. History, I thought would be higher on the list. History. Well, history is number 8 on the list. And general trivia, just general useless trivia knowledge, a movie quote here and what's the capital of this? General trivia, people about 5. That's number 7 on the list. Now I've got a couple of friends that are very good at this. They can do obscure facts about movies and TV shows. I am not skilled in this area. People say, if you see that movie, I say, I think I might have. I don't know. I don't remember movies. I don't care. That part of my brain is like shut down, reserved for other information. Well, number 6 on the list is people say their area of expertise on a phone a friend situation is going to be obscure facts about movies and TV shows. Number 4, people say trending popular music is the number on the list. Number 3, people say their area of expertise is home improvement and do-it-yourself projects. So do-it-yourself. Now, here's the kicker. This kicks me. 2,000 people go to the personal lending site, Lending Club, and they do the survey. And number 2 on the list is people say they are an expert when it comes to social media trends. What? I don't know, because people say you should be on TikTok. I don't know what TikTok. I don't understand it. And there's all these social media things. I don't know all the platforms. I probably need a lesson in some of them. But number 2 in America, they say people say I know my social media. I know what trends out there. And also number 1. Now this is the shocking part. Reality show television. People say they are an expert when it comes to reality show television. And I'll have to tell you, I'm not even sure what reality shows are still on the television. I just don't really know. I don't know if they are, is Survivor still on? That's a reality show, right? The Survivor still on? What are I don't even know. Delilah, do you know you know a couple of them? The Desperate Housewives, I don't even know if that's still on either. So anyway, there's your question of the day. What would be your game show skill if your friends were going to call you on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? What is it that they would most likely call you for? Cody on the Facebook feeds, many Facebook feeds we're on, he says it's TV themes. Ray jumps in on YouTube, and he says that American Civil War is the one that he would be the expert on. So there's your question. What would be your game show skill? Love to hear from you on that one. Question for you also, my friends. You ready for this? Question for you is what's going to happen in Iran? There have been all sorts of reports overnight that action by the United States government is what they call imminent. That means if you went to public schools, that means it's about to happen at any moment. It's an imminent action. And so what is going to happen, we shall see. There's a carrier fleet that has been moved into the area. There were reports widely circulating on the internet yesterday. Whether they're factual, I am not exactly sure, but there were reports widely circulating on the internet yesterday that fleets of B3 bombers, the B2 bombers had taken off. They're all sorts of people spotted aircraft going and heading out somewhere yesterday. So just like to know exactly what it is that is going to happen in Iran, but the word is on the street that it is imminent. Also yesterday, breaking in the news is that President Trump had heard through back channels and other people that the Iranians, in trying to buy time, maybe they're lying about this, they had decided they were not going to execute that shop owner or the shopkeep that they had said they were going to hang publicly, and they said they are going to stop the killing on the streets. We shall see if Iran has followed through with that, but again, lots of reports around the globe and in America that we have started to move military assets, and a lot of folks saw the planes departing yesterday from Air Force establishments here in the United States and overseas. So we'll see. Are we moving around assets for some kind of an attack on Iran? Not sure, but what do you think? I'd love to hear your take on that. Again, if you're just joining us, question of the day: what would be your superpower if your friends were ever to call you from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? If you were on a game show, what would you say is your area of expertise? All right, glad to have all of you here on the program. If you're new to it, this is the Lakey Unleashed Streamcast podcast broadcast. By the end of the day, thousands, and I do mean thousands of earballs, will hear this show, see this show. We appreciate all of you tuning in. Don't forget, whatever platform you're on, you are more than welcome to chit chat with us and to jump into the conversation and say Heidi ho that way. That'd be fantastic. If your comments are clean and not vulgar, we'll be sure to producer Chad screens those and we will get them on the screen. All right, so there's some news stories. We'll come back and cover those here in just a moment. And I've got this story about big pharmaceutical companies I want to get to. The Senate dismissed Venezuela's war power resolution and what's going to happen in Iran. Oh, by the way, the House has the votes to hold the Clintons in contempt for not showing up in front of the the Oversight Committee. And we'll talk about that. Famed attorney John O'Connor is going to be on the show a little bit later. Right now, if I may, let's go to our friend for the John Birch Society. His name is Tim Martin. He's been on the program before. Always great to have him on the show. Tim, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Oh, great. Do I get to answer the question?
Yes, sir. What's your area of expertise, sir?
Man, I tell you what, I'd like to think it's the Constitution and government is what my friends would probably call me. My wife, on the other hand, she's kind of a human jukebox for 80s music. They would probably call her about lyrics.
Lyrics. See, I can't store lyrics and artists in my head, even though I was in the music business for many years. And movies. For some reason, that part of my brain does not work. People do movie quotes like in conversation, and they all remember that one. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. I can't do that.
I'm with you. Well, great to be back on the show.
Pleasure to have you here. We'll talk about the John Birch Society here in just a moment, but a topic that is, there's so many news stories out there, and people just can't focus on all of them, and I understand that. But President Trump, in the midst of the Minnesota stuff, in the midst of the Iran stuff, this week, over and over again, he has come back and he keeps talking about Greenland. He says we're going to take it by force. Everybody's commenting on it in Washington. I don't think America's paying attention to it because there's so many other things we're drinking from the water hose. Give me your thoughts. Taking over Greenland, he says if we don't take it, Russia and China will. Point of history, we did buy half the United States with the Louisiana Purchase. We also purchased Alaska. So buying a piece of land is not out of the swath of reality. But give me your thoughts. Let's talk about taking over Greenland.
Well, I think your analogy is pretty close. I'd actually probably characterize it more as us trying to drink out of a fire hydrant because there's so much coming at us so fast. With regards to Greenland, sometimes I can't decide whether this is just Trump posturing or, feathering his own nest, or kind of that old military industrial complex just trying to create threats in order to get that $1.5 trillion budget pass that Trump recently asked us about. But I can tell you, I've been with a lot of young people the last couple of weeks, even in Christmas. I was out at AmFest from Turning Point, talking with a lot of young people, and this whole warring mentality is not on their radar. They have absolutely zero interest in it. They know they're going to end up having to pay for it, or even their unborn children are going to have to pay for it as our country goes deeper and deeper in debt. And quite frankly, I like some of the great things that Trump has done. Recently they got out of about 60-something plus agreements with the UN. That has been a big effort by the John Birch Society since our founding, was to get us out of the United Nations. And it's really kind of getting hard to appreciate those sorts of things when we have all these other distractions that are really not things that I don't think the voters, frankly, voted him into office to do. I was listening to a program this morning, and they said, if you went around to all of those Trump rallies, I don't think one person would have said, we need to get Trump elected so that he can go beat up on Iran or go beat up on Venezuela for all the oil. So I think there's definitely a disconnect between kind of where we were 6 months ago and where we are today. And I certainly would like to get back to where we were.
How do you thread the needle of isolationism versus the old Roosevelt walk soft, carry a big stick? How do you thread the needle if there's a perception or a reality that China and Russia are getting closer to us, so through that Arctic area? Or if you have narco terrorists running countries that are killing people on the streets here, it's easy to say, well, we don't want to get in any foreign entanglements. However, if those foreign countries are threatening us with drugs or whatever, we have to act. How do we thread the needle? What did our founders intend for us to do in regards to foreign entanglements and getting involved? Were they isolationists? Were they interventionists?
Well, I think they were actually more what is characterized most commonly now as non-interventionalism, which is just non-offensive actions that are taken against other countries. You know, the War Powers Act under Article 2 was really designed for imminent, immediate threats that the president had to address before Congress could literally travel back to DC to discuss it, which was the original intent. I think all of these things could potentially get passed if that discussion was had in the House like it's supposed to. And that's just really not happening right now. And I think that's what's really kind of getting under the skin of a lot of people. We never elected a dictator. We didn't elect a tyrant. And I'm not suggesting that Trump is doing those sort of things, but he is taking a lot of this initiative to himself. I think he's got some bad advisors around him telling him that he can do it. But Ron Paul at one point, he said, what's the problem with us just minding our own business? And I think that probably is a good characterization, because we go around kicking all these anthills. The CIA has been overthrowing countries and governments. I mean, you just look back at Ukraine. What we're seeing today happened when the CIA under the Obama administration overthrew the Ukrainian government back in 2014. So history didn't just start yesterday. And, I think these imminent threats, we buy a lot of stuff from China. That is a little bit difficult to sell to me personally, that they're going to want to attack their biggest customer, number one. Number two, I think that geography is just not a big issue today as it once was. I mean, you just look at the Iran example. We sent B-2 bombers from Missouri all the way over to Iran and back. They never even touched the ground. We have a lot of very quick response stuff that we can do. I just don't think geography is a big deal, which is why I kind of think that this whole, kind of public threat that, Russia and China are on the doorstep of Greenland. I'm just not buying it. I really am just not buying it. I think it's really just kind of bluster.
If you're listening to the audio portion of the show, there's thousands of earballs we'll hear by the end of the day. That's the voice of Tim Martin. He's the director of marketing for the JBS, John Birch Society, with us on the program. So since you can't see it on the screen, if you're listening, let you know that's Tim Martin. We'll talk about JBS in just a moment. Tim, going back to kind of what our founders envisioned for this country versus to where we're at today, the founding versus the reality of where we're at today. I was raised studying school that the U.S. Senate was the greatest deliberative body on the planet, and great ideas, hot ideas went there to cool. Now it's just a cesspool of dysfunction and idiots like the leadership there. It's not good. You have the House of Representatives where they control the purse strings and all the budgeting starts there. They haven't been on regular order when it comes to budgeting for over a decade or two. They can't even pass a budget. Isn't that part of a problem, that what our founders intended is what you said, that the Congress could come and give some advice and consent and pass some resolutions? We can't get anything done. It's just a partisan hellhole there on Capitol Hill. Yeah,
it really is dysfunctional. I think that's a great description. And what I've really kind of come to realize is the American public just isn't really overly educated on purpose about the function of government, what it's supposed to be doing, what are the nuts and bolts of the Constitution. And I think part of the reason why it's not taught in school anymore is to keep us sort of in the dark, so to speak, about what's going on and what is supposed to be happening. So us at the Birch Society, we just put out a new class called Blueprint for Liberty, is to try to bring up the political IQ, because if we don't know the rules of the government game, how are we going to know when our representative or our senator is breaking a rule, or something like that? If they're offsides or pass interference or something like that, we've got to know the rules of the game so that we can try to hold them accountable. And then once we actually know, we do need to hold them accountable. A lot of these folks get elected each year, and that's troubling, because a lot of them are very, very dysfunctional. In our next issue of the New American magazine, we actually will be publishing a Freedom Index score, which is a sampling. We take a look at the votes up in Congress, both House and Senate, and we view them and score them through the lens of the Constitution. It's very telling, because it really kind of puts right there in front of you what the reality is versus the rhetoric. But we need to kind of just start holding them accountable, understanding what is actually going on. And it starts with us. We've had one of the founders, I can't remember at the top of my head, but they said that if we're going to accept this stuff, it's because we are allowing it. So right now we're allowing it by not reelecting them, not holding them accountable, not making the phone calls, emails, etc.
Again, the voice of Tim Martin, JBS, John Birch Society Director of Marketing, joins me. Tim, another thing I think people are very uneducated with what our founders intended versus where we're at today is you look at all this waste, fraud, and abuse. We found it under Tim Waltz in Minnesota. You have it all across America. Probably all 50 states have some kind of waste, fraud, and abuse. We take money from my paycheck, we send it to Washington, D.C., and then the powers that be say, oh, Jimmy's money from Colorado or somebody's money from Texas, we're going to put that there, and we're going to send that up to Minnesota for these daycare learning centers. That's a problem. I heard that if there's waste, fraud, and abuse with the government, I'm not sure if this is totally accurate. If we cut all the waste, fraud, and abuse, we would be a much closer, if not totally balanced in our budget. That's how much money our government is wasting. For some reason, the American electorate doesn't seem to care that they're taking money from your paycheck, not for the greater good. A lot of this is going to crap and the leering centers in Minnesota. Yeah. And for some reason, we keep electing the same people that keep doing that.
Yeah, this is sort of the shiny object. They want to attack Nick Shirley for exposing this. Well, our stance is if Congress didn't authorize this stuff to begin with the checkbook, there would be no money to steal from by these daycares up in Minnesota. And that's the money laundering operation that goes on in Washington. And the daycares, and now there's information coming about the non-emergency medical transport. Those sorts of things probably, and I'm sure they go on all over the place. And it's just a shame that you have a YouTuber and a researcher that blew this whole thing up, when we have a multi-trillion-dollar government that should be doing this. There's obviously no checks and balances in place. There's no auditing in place for any of this money. But I think the dirty little secret here and the takeaway is that it's all money laundering. That's how they get the money over to the campaigns, by getting these shell companies. And also, none of this would be none of this would be possible if we didn't have the central banking Federal Reserve System. If we got rid of that, we would be in a much, much better shape. We talk about the fact that 80% of the government is unconstitutional, but it represents about 100% of our problems, which goes to what you're speaking about. If we had just gotten rid of all this stuff, we probably would be able to balance a budget. And that takes care of a lot of things. If we just follow and get back to the Constitution the way it was supposed to be, we would be in a much different situation. But again, we got to know it. We got to know it.
Yeah, that's the education. And you can't even get the members of Congress to vote to audit the Fed, let alone eliminate the Fed. So there's a first step. We have never done an audit. We don't know. It's kind of like, is the gold in Fort Knox? No one's looked. They keep telling us, is anybody going to audit the Fed? Well, they're doing all right. We don't have to do that. But let me tell you, you make a wrong line on your IRS tax return, they're going to come in and audit you. But the Fed, hands off.
Right. Yeah, because they've got the protections under the privacy that the Congress, unconstitutionally gave them. This all this stuff is downstream. I'm glad that the Federal Reserve is getting a lot of heat lately. They created the banking crisis in order to usher in the central banking system in the early 1900s. I'd like to just completely eliminate 1913 if we possibly could, but obviously, we know that's a stretch.
Yeah.
But certainly, history is important. We are well over 100 years into this program, and people need to understand that there's no silver bullet that's going to unwind this. We have to do it and eat that elephant one bite at a time.
The voice again, Tim Martin. We're talking about JBS and go to my next guest. But I'm amazed, Tim, at how many people I know that are very smart don't realize that our founders never intended for our U.S. senators to be directly elected. The 17th Amendment. They don't get that. They think, oh, this is the way it's always been. No, it's not the way it's always been. And when it became that way, it became a little bit more screwed up.
Yeah, amen, brother.
Yeah. JBS.org. You mentioned the publication and some new things coming out there. Tell us where to find JBS and where to get these publications.
Yeah, jbs.org, thenewamerican.com. We're all over the socials and YouTube. Just give us a search. We're anywhere and everywhere. So we're very easy to find.
Thenewamerican.org.
Yes, sir.
All right. Tim Martin, I appreciate you hopping on again. Thank you very much for popping on the show. Again, jbs.org. That's the website, jbs.org, jbs.org. All right. I want to remind you real quick, if I may have a chat with you here. It's real estate season in America. You say, well, it's winter. I'm not ready. I'm going to sell in the spring. We're going to buy in the spring, the summer. Listen, I want you to call if you're in that Colorado area where we're broadcasting from. Of course, people all over the country listening to us and hearing us. But if you're in the Colorado area, that I-25 corridor, let's say Denver to Fort Collins, Highlands Ranch, up to, let's say Longmont, Fort Collins, you get the idea. You need to call Sherry Creer, great friend of the program, been with us since day one on the show. And go to our website, homeswithsherry.com. We've talked about this. I'm trying to educate you, make you some money or save you some money, depending on whether you're buying or selling. That when you list or go into the buyer's market or the seller's market, the timing of that can cost you, or it can be expensive in a good way for you or a bad way for you. Listen, is it a buyer's market, a seller's market? Did you know it can change very quickly? A lot of folks say, let's go to April, May, and June, and you don't realize that there's people after the holidays, they're ready to move. They're ready to go. And so right now could be considered usually a seller's market. It can vary. So if you've been thinking of selling, you probably want to get that thing sold or listed sooner rather than later, because it could be extra money in your pocket. Again, there's strategies, there's timing, there's calendars, there's a flow that, again, you approach real estate from. This can create generational wealth for me and my family. You need to reach out to Sherry and have that conversation and get that strategy, get that roadmap to that generational wealth. Homeswithsherry.com. A portion of her proceeds, my friend, she always gives to the charity of your choice. And she also, my friends, if you're a military, a veteran, active duty, she also discounts her commissions as well. One of her great sponsors, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Make sure you tell her that Jimmy Lakey, a.k.a. Jaime Lagos, south of the border, knows me as Jaime Lagos. Make sure you go to homeswithsherry.com. All right, glad to have you here, Lakey Unleashed. We're going to reset the question of the day, then go to my next guest. The question of the day is, if you were making an appearance or your friends were making an appearance on the old Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or the modern game show The Floor, what would be your area of expertise? What do you say you know more about this than anybody else, and somebody could call you in a crunch on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? What would be your game show skill or your game show area of expertise? I'd like to hear from your thoughts. What would it be? The number one answer in the survey done by the private lending website Lending Club says that most Americans feel that their strongest bit of useless knowledge, if you will, is on reality television shows. Now, that's the one. Don't call me. Do not call me about reality television shows. I don't know. I don't know which one is on. I don't know the last time I watched one. Please don't call me on that. But some history, American history, we could do. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, I feel, because I'm not exactly sure the answer, but let me know. Our Lois says this. She says the question today, family and friends are always asking her for cooking and baking questions. Kevin jumps in. I would be the perfect phone a friend for music in the 70s and 80s. Again, not my area of expertise. What's your superpower on the game shows? If Regis Philbin came back from the dead, hosted a game show and said, do you want to phone a friend? And they would say, I want to phone this person. What would be your area of expertise? Love to hear from you. Comment, and we would love to have you jump in and let us know your area of expertise. Let me welcome from a great organization called SAVE, S-A-V-E. It's Ed Bartlett, Edward Bartlett. He's on the stage now. Mr. Bartlett, welcome back to the show, sir. How are you?
Hey, Jimmy, long time no see. I love your new hat.
Oh, thank you, sir. I swapped out. I still got the fedora over here, but I decided, I can always promote the charity if I wear this hat. So that's what I do. Pleasure to have you here. Mr. Bartlett, I want to jump into a couple of topics of conversation. You are always wanting to stand tall and make sure that you want to make sure that we're equality and fairness and due process on the campuses of America. So give a quick definition from your paradigm that will help people understand your answers here about the organization you started called SAVE, S-A-V-E.
Well, Jimmy, we're going to go back in history a little bit to 2011 during the Obama administration, and they decided that to create a hysteria about what they call campus sexual assault. So they enacted a new policy called the Dear Colleague Letter that had the effect of removing due process, had the effect of removing the presumption of innocence. And so it became sort of a hellhole for male students who had been falsely accused of some sort of sexual peccadillo. So it goes all the way back to then. Things are better now, not completely, but we're making some progress.
We have been we've had this woke period of time, wokeism, where certain thought patterns were praised and others were condemned, and you had to kind of fit into that narrative. And you do say it is getting better. And one of the things I was encouraged to read this week is that over the last several days, the United States of America has decided to stop funding and pull out of several different things that were happening at the United Nations and international conventions and treaties. And we kind of relooked at our positions and what we're spending money on with the United Nations. And there is an executive order that withdraws us from the UN Women's Foundation, the UN Women's Organization. Talk about this and why is it important that we revisited funding that part and participating in that part of the United Nations?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Jimmy. So UN Women is one of the major agencies within the United Nations structure. It's based in New York City, but they have offices all around the world. They're very active in the social media arena. So back then, 15 years ago, people sort of said, yeah, we need to do more for gender equality. We need to do more to help women. Okay, so let's concede that point. But here we are, 15 years later, it's reversed. Men are lagging behind women in 12 different areas, like lifespan, like enrollment in higher education, like homelessness, like treatment by the legal system. And I've just started on my list of 12 areas of male disadvantage. That said, and this is all based on science and World Bank studies and so forth. That said, UN Women refuses to acknowledge these areas of male disadvantage. They only want you to think about the gender issues as they define it. Of course, they really don't give very good data. They just sort of throw out these claims in midair, and they hope that people will not push back too hard.
Yeah, Joe Biden declared that he was not going to pick as a running mate the best person, most qualified. He was going to pick a woman. That was that he set he set an affirmative action goal that even if she's not the best person for the job, I'm going to nominate Kamala Harris, or a woman, to do that. He wanted Amy Klobuchar, I think, but the American left would not let him because she had been part of a bill's in the George Florida area. She had been seen on hard on crime, and the Democrats did not want to be hard on crime, so he got stuck with Kamala because he limited himself because of diversity, equity, inclusion. We have a Supreme Court justice that President Biden said,
Yeah.
I'll only appoint a black woman. Now, you think of the Supreme Court of the United States, you would really like to say, find the best person, whether it's a black woman,
Right.
a Hispanic woman, a black man. It doesn't matter. Get the best person for the job. So we have an administration before this one that was all based on DEI, and that affects Americans. And you just wish leadership would just choose the best person for the job and be blind regarding a lot of the ancillary issues. Are we moving past the area of DEI, or is this going to be an ongoing trend in America?
We have made progress in the last year thanks to President Donald Trump. He issued an executive order, I think it was his first week of office, saying that he was eliminating all DEI within the federal government and organizations that receive federal contracts. And I'll just give an example: is the NIH, National Institutes of Health. You would kind of think that the NIH is all about the best and the brightest scientists, but no, NIH embraced this DEI disease, and of course they started talking about transgenderism and so forth and so on. I used to work with the NIH, and I can't tell you what a major setback this is for science, to have scientists who are selected on the basis of their skin color or on the basis of their genitalia. That's just plain corruption. It's plain wrong.
Yeah. Again, the voice of Edward Bartlett, joins me. He has an organization called SAVE. You mentioned you're compiling a list. I know you have a presence online. Edward Bartlett, if folks want to know more about your organization that is dedicated to make sure that, especially men, but to make sure that we just are getting due process and focus, not indoctrination on college campuses. If folks want to learn more about SAVE, SAVE, where do they go?
Yeah, we have a very vigorous website. It's saveservices.org. You've got it there on the screen, saveservices.org.
Edward Bartlett, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show. I appreciate it. We'll talk again very soon, and let's hope that the DEI keeps going bye-bye. Bye-bye to the DEI. We hope so. That's our
Love
prayer.
it. You take care.
Take care. Edward Bartlett, my guest, saveservices.org, saveservices.org. A couple of more news stories. We do have John O'Connor, famed attorney, scheduled to be on the show. Coming up here in just a moment, a couple of topics with him. And one of those topics is going to be about whether or not the Clintons not appearing for a subpoena from the House Oversight Committee, whether there's any risk of prosecution, is it going to happen, what happens next, and a couple of other great legal topics that we will get to with John O'Connor here in just a moment. I do have another story that I just find quite fascinating, and it's just one of my pet peeves, is I've always wondered, and maybe like you and me, you got poked as a kid. You got the vaccinations as a kid. You got the measles, mumps. Occasionally got running for a tetanus shot or something. You got a few shots here and there. So when I had we got my son, realized that they wanted to stick him with needles, and I didn't understand. And he had a reaction early on, a reaction that scared the hell out of me, because he had a reaction as I adopted him and coming back. And so we were far away from the United States of America. He had a reaction. I didn't know what to do. So I started doing the research, and I said, why are we the only Western country, the only modern country, first world country that requires kids get jabs with so many needles? Why do we exceed the European standards? They get 7 or 8, we get 70 or 80. I mean, why is that? What's the disconnect? Are we more healthy than them, or are they more healthy than us? Well, RFK Jr. has changed this and said, hey, we're going to go to that European schedule because it's parents can still do the others if they want, but the requirement of the vaccine mandates or schedule, the published schedule is not going to have as many as it used to. Well, the American Academy of Pediatrics have now told a judge that they want to have a lawsuit against RFK for making the changes in the standards. And what you need to know, though, about the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Public Health Association is they all receive funding from big pharmaceutical companies. And it's a really interesting story. I think it's one we ought to all keep a sharp eye on, because whether you're red team or blue team, I believe in parental choice. And you as a parent should have the right to not put all the pokes of the jabs in your kids. You should have the right to say, well, let's do the bare minimum and have an honest account of what the bare minimum would be. And RFK Jr. has decided that he's going to change it, and we're going to go to more of a global standard of what many other our allies and many other countries go to. And it's big pharmaceutical that's very upset because obviously the more vaccines they can sell, they like selling them, and they even bonus doctors when their practices move certain numbers of vaccines. So these organizations of pediatrics and physicians have decided that they're going to step in and they're going to sue RFK Jr. for changing this. How dare you? But it's also interesting when you look at their filings that they do have a little bit of tie back to the big pharma. They're the front guys for big pharma. So I think it's an interesting topic. It's a lawsuit that's going to make its way through court. The judge has given a green light. But I'm all for the RFK new standard. If you want all of them, get all of them. That's fine. But let's get it down to the brass tacks and the basics on the actual vaccine schedule. I think it's a good move, and I think it tells you a lot when these organizations that receive a lot of funding from the big pharmaceuticals are the ones that go to court and say, "Hey, we don't want the gravy train to be turned over here. Be careful. We don't want that." All right, ladies and gentlemen, John O'Connor. He's got a great podcast about Watergate. Back in the day, he was Deep Throat's attorney in the after the Watergate era. John O'Connor joins us now. John, attorney extraordinaire. Welcome back, sir. How are you?
Good to see you, James.
It's great to see you, Jonathan. Pleasure to have there while we're sounding out big names. So when's the last time someone called you Jonathan?
Well, my name's not Jonathan. My name is John. The fancy guys, their parents named him Jonathan, but I'm just an Irish boy, and so I have a simple name of John.
You know, my name is actually just Jimmy. It's not James. It really is. On the BC, it says Jimmy. And again, I came from simple roots, and we weren't fancy enough to call me James. I was just Jimmy. That's kind of weird. Nobody believes that, but we're both simple men, John. Very simple. That's all we are.
That's right. Simple is good.
Let me start with a question that was not on the pitch that I originally scheduled on. It's just a fascinating story that's going around out there that evidently the House Oversight Committee has decided that Bill and Hillary Clinton were supposed to testify largely on the Epstein files, and they chose not to show. Bill Clinton did not show up on Tuesday. Hillary did not show up yesterday. James Comer, head of the Oversight Committee, says they have enough votes in the House to hold them in contempt and refer it to the Department of Justice. Give me your thoughts on this saga that might be unfolding. Is that a big deal? Is it not a big deal? Give me your thoughts, sir.
Well, if I were Comer, I would do exactly what he's doing. Remember, I want to say it's Navarro and Steve Bannon. I think both got convicted of contempt for not testifying or not appearing at Congress. And this is not something you just slough off. Congress often doesn't pursue these things. But in something like the Epstein files, I think it's wise. First of all, I think it's wrong for him to just ignore a branch government. Everybody talks about how Trump is so terrible because he's, stomping on the other branches. Well, what's Bill Clinton doing here? And so I think politically it makes a lot of sense too, because the more he and Hillary stay away from testifying, the guiltier they look on this. Hillary knows exactly what was up, and of course Clinton does himself. So I think it would be wise politically to do this and have Clinton continue to run.
Let me ask you this: we believe that whether you like Trump or not, but I believe that he was. I believe the Justice Department was weaponized against him. The intelligence community weaponized against him, and some people say this is just retribution. Now he's going after his old political foes. Uh, Obviously, you're not going to convince some people that that's not the case, but is that the case? Is this just further continued what they would call weaponization of the Justice Department against your political foes?
Well, this one's pretty legitimate, I think, because the people across the country are very into Epstein. There's no doubt about it, and they consider this a very important issue because the question is the corruption at the highest levels of government and business, and it's something they want to know about. So I don't think this is frivolous. I will say this: I know Trump is rightly furious about what happened to him, not only the impeachments, but this Russiagate thing. It was all a setup. It was all a hoax. I've studied it quite a bit, and it's terrible that they can get away with it and are getting away with it. So I understand his frustration. Because he's not a lawyer and he doesn't have the kind of personality where he can just sit back and let things play out. Sometimes I think can be overly aggressive in pushing lawyers to do things when the evidence isn't there.
Yeah.
I think that he was very lucky, and the whole group was very lucky that the judge threw out the case against Comey. And they threw it out on the grounds that Lindsay Halligan was not appointed properly, which is the best way to end it. It was such a terrible case. It's a case that shouldn't have been brought by any prosecutor who knew anything about this. And it makes everybody look stupid if this thing carried out and people understood how weak the evidence was. I'm all in favor, by the way, of investigating this Russiagate thing. And I do think there's a case there. It's a very broad conspiracy case. It's going to have some difficulty making it, but it will have the ring of truth to it. And I think that's Trump's retribution. I think he should get retribution if retribution is properly there. But on the other hand, he doesn't want to act like the bad guys, just basically mirror the bad guys. And sometimes it looks that way, that he's pushing his prosecutors too hard to do things that are just sort of stupid. And I want to keep him away from stupid.
Yeah. The voice of John O'Connor, if you're listening later to the show, thousands of earballs, literally thousands of earballs, listen to the show, hear the show, see the show every day. John O'Connor will give you his websites here in just a moment. That's the voice you're hearing if you're listening to the audio portion only. I've come back to the original topic in just a moment, but I do want to ask you this. It seems as if we're getting word that the Justice Department is seeking some federal prosecutions, but they know that the judges around D.C. are not amiable to this, and they're in various places like Florida. There's grand juries that have been impaneled and looking into some of the Russiagate, this grand conspiracy. Give me your thoughts on this strategy of getting outside the Beltway, where you have judges that are historically and pretty much on the record as anti-Trump, anti-conservative. Is this unusual to go to other places outside of the Beltway to pursue grand jury hearings?
Not at all. And as a matter of fact, that's what any good prosecutor should do. I would be more concerned as a prosecutor about the juries, not so much the judges, although the judges will hurt you too there. For some reason, they're extremely lefty in the D.C. area, whether you're talking about Virginia or you're talking about D.C. Actually, Maryland's not good either. So it would be nice to find some spot, such as Florida, where you can get a decent jury. I think the sweep of the conspiracy is large, and I've always been in favor of actually using Florida and having a very, very broad Russiagate conspiracy, because that's what it was. It was a broad conspiracy. It started in 2016, involved our intelligence agencies acting over in Russia, trying to trap people into various meetings and conversations that would make it look like they were all Russiaed up, like they wanted to get George Papadopoulos, the young guy, to try to do things with Putin or act like he wanted Trump to meet Putin. And that was going to seem to be a Russia thing. And then, of course, remember the Trump Tower meeting. That was a big setup. And so it's a grand conspiracy, and it continued through the Russiagate investigation. And even after that, luckily for them, John Brennan in May of 2023 lied to Congress about not pushing the Steele dossier, which was a pile of junk, attaching that to the intelligence community assessment. He did urge that. He did lie at that point, and that can be the hook to say the conspiracy went all the way up at least to May of 2023. Therefore, your statute of limitations of 5 or 6 years, I forget which one it is for conspiracy, runs from May of 2023. And that's, but you can hook all of the conspiratorial act into one broad allegation that this whole thing was a setup to exonerate Hillary Clinton and put all the blame and defame Donald Trump. So I think that makes sense, and I hope they do it, and
Yep.
I hope they find, and you have to have overt acts, Jimmy. In a conspiracy, there's certain overt acts, and you have to find some overt acts in Florida. And I haven't thought about that much. We know there were raids on Mar-a-Lago. Whether that's part of the conspiracy or not, I have to think a lot about that. But hopefully, there's something they did regarding Russiagate that would be in Florida, and I've got to think about that.
Yep.
The various acts, because they start in Europe, actually.
Yeah.
Let
me ask you, I want to talk about the investigation into Mr. Powell of the Fed. We'll go real quick before we have to wrap up. But a lot of folks have said the Comey case wasn't that great, but we think that Comey did some dastardly deeds. You mentioned Brennan. In your perspective, with this grand conspiracy pursued and the grand juries impaneled, are there going to finally be people, I guess, held accountable? A lot of us feel like these folks have gotten away with this nonsense for so long. And if somebody is held accountable, how high up do you think it will go?
On Powell?
No, on all of these grand conspiracy, how far up is Brennan going to be held accountable? Will things circle back around to Comey in this grand conspiracy investigation?
That's what I hope. I think those two are key. Also, Clapper, the DNI, those three are key in this. I mean, they really, really pushed this thing. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were pushing this false narrative, using an investigation and then leaking the investigation. The whole special counsel thing was a farce.
Yeah.
Now, what has to happen, though, is there are so many immunities that come from the act of prosecution that it has to be carefully put together. But I think there's enough there. There's enough dishonest communications to the public about Trump that there's is a grand conspiracy there.
John O'Connor, author of a book called Postgate, How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat and Covered Up Watergate and Began Today's Partisan Advocacy Journalism. He also served as an assistant U.S. attorney in Northern California, representing the United States in both criminal and civil cases. Great podcast, formerly Deep Throat's lawyer. And we'll tell you how to get the books here in just a moment. But one more quick question before we run short on time, John. Evidently, the Fed Reserve Chairman, Mr. Powell, is under criminal investigation over spending $2.5 billion, that's with a B, on renovating the headquarters of the Federal Reserve. Give me your thoughts on this criminal investigation. Do you see any criminality here?
No, it won't go anywhere. The Congressperson Luna, who referred this, referred it on the basis that he lied. He said there'd been no major renovation between 1999 and there'd been no major renovation lately. There had been one, but that's a question of taste as to what you think major is and to whether he knew about the prior renovation. He really didn't quite lie about some of the details. The details have been changing. So they're not going to be able to prove anything here. This is a way of embarrassing him. I think this thing may backfire, Jimmy, because people see that Trump is interfering with the independence of the Fed. and it's might backfire on Trump because Powell should resign his governorship when he gives up his chairmanship, but he may not do that just out of spite for Trump, and he can stay on 2 years longer as a governor, and I bet you he does that, and just to get back at Trump, which he can do. So there's nothing there. I think it's I don't know who leaked it, but it's really a referral. These referrals happen all the time and they go nowhere. This one just happened to be leaked and got a sensational play in the media.
John O'Connor, again, let me tell you about the book. And you, John, you can tell where everybody can find you, your podcast. Esteemed attorney, he's written a book called Postgate, How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat, Covered Up Watergate, and Began Today's Partisan Advocacy Journalism. That's the book. The podcast is all about the secrets of Watergate, as John served as Deep Throat's attorney. And a lot of great information, a lot of fun history there as well. John O'Connor, if folks want to get a copy of the book, if they want to listen to the podcast, where do we find all things John O'Connor?
Well, you got to go to postgatebook.com, or just to Amazon and look up Postgate. But it's a fun read. And what's good about it is it predicts Russiagate. That's where it all started.
It all started
was
there.
Watergate.
John O'Connor, the book is called postgatebook.com. And if folks want to get some of the inside information on Watergate, your podcast series on that's fantastic as well. People need to listen to that.
Yeah, it's fun.
John O'Connor, appreciate it. Postgatebook.com. Thousands of earballs will hear the show by the end of the day. And we appreciate all of you tuning in live, and thousands of you listen later in the day. We appreciate that as well. Don't forget, we're on YouTube. We're on all the for the live stream, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Rumbles, etc. If you want to listen to the audio version later, all the podcast platforms have this show within a matter of a few minutes after the show is done. It goes in podcast form, and that's on Spotify, iHeart, and all of it. So thousands of earballs. We appreciate all the earballs listening. Thank you very much. We appreciate your participation. If you've been on part of the program very long, even back to the radio days, you know that Jay Ratliff is our aviation and travel expert, and he graciously joins us today to talk about some more things in the world of aviation and travel. Not everything's political, my friends. All of us got to hop a plane every once in a while. Jay Ratliff, good morning, sir.
Oh, there might be some political things in here, my friend. We'll see where it goes.
We shall see. Pleasure to have you. First of all, this story, and I found it interesting that it was on your notes and ideas you sent over to me about topics. President Trump has, I guess, signed an executive order that says credit card companies are beating people up too much, they're ripping America off, and they need to limit that interest rate. Those high interest rates are not fair. It's a scam. And you expect the credit card companies to say, "I don't like that. That's our money pit, rather. We want that." But the head of Delta Airlines came out against this.
Yes, Ed Bastian, the CEO for Delta Airlines, came out and said that he did not think that was a good idea. In fact, he said it would be bad for the economy, bad for the people, blah, blah, blah. And you might think, well, why in the world would a CEO of an airline care about that? Well, when you understand the inner workings of the airline, it's not too hard to see that they make a great deal of money from their credit card partnerships that they have that's connected to their, like Delta for their SkyMiles card with American Express. In fact, Delta just announced their last quarter's profit, which was just over $1 billion in a single quarter. And that was driven primarily not from flying us back and forth to grandma's house, but basically for the partnership they have with American Express for the credit card sales and what have you through their SkyMiles frequent flyer program. In fact, if going back to 2024, if you took out all of the credit card agreements that airlines have with various companies, not a single U.S. carrier would have made a profit in 2024. And when you look at the fact that United and Delta and others, those are the main two, that report profits close to or in excess of $1 billion in a single quarter, it's pretty clear to see where that comes from. In fact, you and I will talk about this, I hope, as we approach Valentine's Day. That's the day Delta Airlines gives their employees their profit sharing check if they have one. This year, based on all of the data that we have, it looks like every employee for Delta is going to get a profit sharing check that's going to be 4 to 5 weeks of their salary as a thank you at one time. So they should be in a pretty good mood on Valentine's Day. And all of this, for the most part, is because of the airline's relationship with their credit card partners. And that's one of the reasons airlines are like, oh no, don't touch that, because that will definitely impact us big time.
Wow. The voice of Jay Ratliff, aviation and travel expert. Jay, I want to get to this other topic you sent me, but I had this story. I just got to ask you, and I meant to send it to you in advance. It's a story about a flight on December 13th, Air Canada 1501. Passengers on the taxiing aircraft were left horrified. They heard chilling screams echoing beneath them, beneath the cabin, just moments before the takeoff. Evidently, an employee ground crew member got trapped inside the plane's cargo hold, and the doors closed behind him. Did you hear this story?
Oh, yeah. And it's happened several times before over the years. And in the 33 years I've been doing this, I've talked about it quite often. You had the passengers report this to the flight attendant, who then reported it to the pilot in command, and the captain recognized, yes, we've got someone in the cargo compartment. Jimmy, you don't know if it's an employee, though, or perhaps it's a stowaway. At that point in time, you don't know. You suspect it's an employee, obviously, but if it's a stowaway, is there any, how'd they get on the plane? Do they have anything with them? Is there anything that would be a threat? So there's a security protocol that's called into play. So the aircraft eventually makes its way back to the gate. They have a security procedure that is followed. There's a delay. They open up the cargo compartment and do find that it was an employee that was there. And everything was okay. The problem was the delay was so much, it actually caused the crew to time out. So they couldn't take the flight to its destination. They had to wait for another crew. Now, in Vancouver, that wasn't too difficult for them to do. Fortunately, it wasn't at an outstation where it would have been a little bit more problematic. But if you have let's say a passenger decides not to fly, and you've got to remove their bags, it's part of the positive passenger bag match that most airlines and countries follow, meaning if you don't fly, your bag doesn't fly, because we don't want that to happen in case there's something in your bag. So you send a gate agent, not a gate agent, but a ramp agent into the cargo compartment looking for this one bag. Now there's bags in this 20 feet deep cabin that, are stacked 4 or 5, 6 feet high. Well, not 6, but 3 or 4 feet high. And they're crawling through there looking for this bag. Now, if you're on the ramp and the flight's about to leave and you've got all the bags loaded, you might stick your head in and kind of glance, don't see anything, click the light out, drop the door. You've got the ear suppressions on. It's loud on the ramp. So there's a lot of noise that's ongoing with aircraft engines. You're not going to hear somebody. And there have been people that normally sometimes there's tag teams where somebody stays in the aircraft, and as the bags arrive for departure, they're loaded up and the person will stow them accordingly. But sometimes people have gotten in there, and just as they're waiting for the next round of bags, they fall asleep. And they've been left in there and flown to another city as well. If it's in the forward compartment, the compartment underneath the aircraft in front of the wings, it's pressurized. So you really don't have to worry about somebody dying from being in there. If there's turbulence and bags start flying, that can be problematic. But, there really wouldn't be that much of a danger aspect to that. Now, if they're in the rear cargo compartment, many of those aircraft, that's not pressurized. That's when you're dealing with hypothermia issues and other types of things that could take place that could cause injury or death. So this was in the forward compartment, as I understand it, and the employee was fine. Just a really interesting story for a lot of people on the airplane to have. But you can Google the number of times this has happened over the years, and it's happened quite a few.
That's amazing. The voice of Jay Ratliff, aviation travel expert. Real quick, Louisville plane crash update from the National Transportation Safety Board. That's that plane crash, I believe, that killed a NASCAR driver a couple of weeks ago. Is that the plane crash they're reporting on?
No, this is the UPS plane that crashed.
Oh, the UPS one
that caused the 15 or 16 fatalities. I think it was 15 or so that they had. And what ended up happening here, Jimmy, was that it was Boeing in February 7th, 2011, Boeing issued a letter to all the airlines that operated this particular type of aircraft, saying that there was a bearing race part that they found that started to splinter and break in half. And they had found this in 3 occasions or I think 4 occasions on 3 different airplanes. And they advised airlines to be aware of it. Now, Boeing was very quick to say in this memo that I'm going to read this, make sure I get it right, that this bearing failure would not result in any what they call safety of flight condition. In other words, everything should be okay. So they're not really recommending anything beyond just the advising, so that when you're doing your maintenance, keep an eye out for it. They said everything would be okay. Now, obviously, it wasn't, because we had the plane crash with UPS in November. But, the FAA back in 2011 was completely aware of all this. The FAA could have stepped in and said, hey, time out here. We want these things inspected or replaced quicker than what the maintenance schedule requires. And they opted not to do so, in part based on Boeing saying it won't be an issue. So once again, we have a situation where a decision was made about a part of a plane that ended up being a bad decision. It reminds me of the Southwest flight flying from Orlando, I think, to New Orleans. One of the engines had a mechanical function, and it just blew apart. And parts of the aircraft were impacted by this engine, and it caused it to decompress. Now, they landed the plane in Pensacola as an emergency. Everybody was okay, but the NTSB said, hey, these fan blades here are wearing faster than what we're seeing. And we recommended the FAA to have the airlines inspect these fan blades on this type of engine on a faster basis than what the maintenance protocol requires. And the FAA said, well, we'll leave it up to the airlines if they want to do it or not, because it would be an expensive process to check this. Remember, safety is our number one priority, right? It was 18 months later, Southwest flight over Pennsylvania, engine malfunctions, the exact same engine in the exact same way, again punctures the side of the aircraft, this time pulling a passenger out of the airplane. They get her back in, she dies. And it was because of the exact same issue. And then you had all these wonderful airline executives pulling a hamstring, running to the microphone saying, we're going to ground these airplanes as a matter of caution because safety is our number one priority. What an absolute bunch of bull, because they should have done that before when the NTSB was recommending it. The aircraft manufacturer engine was making that. So don't ever think that safety is the number one priority when it comes to airlines and the FAA. Far too often that proves not to be the case.
Jay Ratliff, aviation travel expert. Jay, if folks want to reach out to you, you can go to your website, jratliff.com. You'll see a lot about day trading, prolific and esteemed day trader. You teach classes on it, but they can reach you there, jratliff.com, jratliff.com. Jay, it's a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for hopping in. I appreciate you.
My pleasure. And if anybody is traveling today, Minneapolis and Boston are going to be kind of the problem children. I think minimal delays should be a pretty good day to fly.
I flying out of Denver, as I do oftentimes, especially on weekends, it's been fantastic weather so far this winter. It's going to catch us, but today
knock on whatever you need to knock on, because we are sneaking through this winter a lot easier than we normally do. So we'll just attribute it to global warming. I'm sorry, climate change, or whatever the phrase is.
Why don't we call it this way? Now you went and got political, I tell you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Jay Ratliff, appreciate you, my friend. jratliff.com, jayratliff.com. Make sure you go there. All right, good to have you here. About to wrap up the show. We're going to do the stolen memes section of the show. Don't forget. Oh, by the way, I've got to show you this. Yesterday, it was National Dress Your Pet Up Day. Anybody remember that? National Dress Your Pet Up Day. And I said, if you dress your pet up, please don't. Your pet does not want to wear a sweater. Your pet doesn't want to wear a hat. Your pet doesn't want to wear a Halloween costume. Although the Halloween costume might be bearable, because if they're out in the neighborhood walking around trick-or-treating, I might let you dress the pet up for Halloween in a mild costume. Well, evidently, some folks were bothered that I said that you should not dress your pet up. One of our viewers and listeners, Stacy, sent this to us and said, this is for all the ladies. This is for all the ladies out there that were offended. That look how cute this guy is. Isn't he fedorable? So if you like to dress your hat up, your dog up, there's a dressed up dog. Please don't do that. Please don't. I mean, I put a hat on my dog one time, a Santa Claus hat, I told you, for a Christmas card. It lasted all of 10 seconds. He sat real still. Boom, he's on the Christmas card. But as a regular habit, I don't advise dressing your dog up. But yesterday was National Dress Your Dog Up Day. So great. I don't do that. All right, it's time for the meme roulette, the solo meme section of the show. I want to remind you that Tuesday, my friends, Tuesday of next week, January the 20th, 1-year anniversary of the President Trump inauguration. We're going to return to the scene where we had our inauguration party a year ago. It's at the Casbar Cigars Lakey Unleashed Roadshow. We're going to do several roadshow events across America this year. Good Lord willing. And the Casbar Cigar Lounge is in Lafayette, Colorado. It's going to do the show live. Get there, be there. Yes, it's a cigar lounge, so that's permissible. But they've got air filtration, even improved it since last time. So, and hopefully the weather will be better this year than it was last year. I'd love to see you Tuesday, and we want you to be there. And if you can make it, please make it to Lafayette, Colorado. People drove in a couple of hours last year, and please come ahead. I would love to have you. Love to have you out for the inauguration commemoration 1 year, January the 20th, since Trump's second term began. All right, at the end of the show, once we're done the meme roulette, I'm going to play one of that Brother Leroy song that talks about that event, January the 20th. So that will be with the closing credits. But in the meantime, it's time for the stolen meme section of the show. We steal memes from around the globe, and we illustrate the absurdity and giggle a little bit. So let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, around and around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. This liberal woman says she's going to starve if food stamps are cut off. Anybody got thoughts on that one? I'm calling BS on it. I don't think so. Round and around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Sometimes you just have to sit back, relax, and let the train wreck itself. I feel that way a lot of times when I'm watching the news. You just watch this one. Not going to be good. Round and around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. There's Elmer Fraud on the screen. I know he used to be Elmer Fudd, but now he's Elmer Fraud. Those old Timmy right there. You see the Nick Shirley interview on Fox News yesterday? I think it was at Jesse. Back, he had a boxing AI-generated poster of him punching out Tim Walz. It's funny. I don't know if you caught that. Round and around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. 1 minute, you're young and fun. The next minute, you're turning your car stereo down to see better. I do that a lot. Yeah. Round and around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. We do not throw away perfectly good food in this house. We put the leftovers in Tupperware, put it in the fridge, and let it go bad, then throw it away. Yeah. Yeah, you let that food die a slow death, but at least have a moment of shining in the refrigerator, and then you throw it away. I understand. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Just so you know, there's a bird in Mexico called the blue-footed booby. When there's a pair, they're referred to as boobies. That's all. Carry on. Look at those boobies. We see the boobies on the screen. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. There it is. I dead air for a moment. There it is. The gong comes from China. They don't let us steal intellectual property too much during the week because you know why? They don't want us to get better than them at that. So that's the Chinese shut us down every week. All right. Again, don't forget, go to all the podcast platforms, Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and you can listen to the audio portion of this show. I appreciate all the new folks joining us every day. Thousands of earballs will hear and or see what you just have heard and or seen. And we appreciate every one of those thousands of earballs. Don't forget, we'll have a Brother Leroy song playing here in just a moment about the Lakey Unleashed Roadshow. But right now, it's time to wrap up. Pleasure to have all of you here on the show. I appreciate you, each and every one of you. If you want to contact us, info@jimmylakey.com. Info@jimmylakey.com. Don't forget our charity, Rivers Promise, riverspromise.org. Until we meet again tomorrow morning, good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. May God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.
on a Tuesday morning. Lafayette waking to the thunder and roar. Doors swing wide at 7:45. You can feel that rumble right through the floor. Smoke curls up with the first lit cigar. Crew rolls in like a rock and roll wave. Unleashed, unfiltered, everything louder. This is the broadcast you crave. The Lakey Unleashed Roadshow is coming. Feel that the crowd is humming. See the Lakey Unleashed broadcast live. Turn it up, we're alive. The Lakey Unleashed Roadshow is coming. Stand up, shout out, hearts are drumming from the first bright spark to the last big blow. We're unleashed on the roadshow. 8 a.m. and the amps are screaming. Producer Chad with a backstage grin. Laura Carno walks in. Crowd goes crazy. This is where the legends begin. 1 year riding that inauguration whirlwind. Voices raised. Yeah, we're marking the date. Laughter, lightning, truth in the crossfire. You can feel the shake in the stage. You can feel that shake in the state. Jimmy says unleashed. Jimmy says unfiltered. Cigars in the air, we own this town. Cast bars rocking, walls come down. The Lakey Unleashed Roadshow is coming. Feel that the crowd is humming. See the Lakey Unleashed broadcast live. Turn it up, we're alive. The Lakey Unleashed Roadshow is coming. Stand up, shout out, hearts are drumming from the first bright spark to the last big blow. We're unleashed on the roadshow.